Hi guys, Alan from Newlands Pets, and this video is, I suppose it's a little bit abstract, but it's something that people come in and ask all the time, and we've had a few people recently sort of not entirely sure what to do. So if you feed dry food, you get your feeding guide on the back or on the side, depending on the brand. It's on the back of this particular one. And if you feed raw, we've got our handy booklet, and the feeding guide is also on the packet as well of pretty much every raw that we have in store. What can confuse people is that if they decide to feed dry and they have been feeding raw, or if they decide to feed raw and they have been feeding dry, is the amount you actually feed. So people often get used to feeding, let's say, 100 grams. Now, that might be 100 grams of dry food, but if you made the transition to raw food, that's going to be a higher amount. It's all to do with calories and goodness and making sure you get all the nutrition for your dog. So make sure, if you're making a transition from one to the other, that you do actually check out the feeding guides. And the same is true as if this is our own New Dog dry food here. If you decided to feed Origin, for example, which is a good quality dry food, the feeding guide between New Dog is going to be different to Origin, and Origin is going to be different to Acana, and Acana is going to be different to Carnilove, for example, just off the top of my head. They're all going to be very, very slightly different. You might find a brand that's exactly the same, but in general, they're all going to be very, very slightly different. So make sure if you're making the transition from one to the other, that you do check out the feeding guide. And that's particularly if you're going from dry to raw or raw to dry, because there's a big difference. It's all to do with the fact that dry food tends to be much more calorie dense, so you tend to feed a lot less of this than you do the raw. So if you've got any questions at all about this, not entirely sure how much to feed, you can always give us a bell, send us a message on Facebook, and we can definitely help, probably over the phone and probably on a message, but obviously if you're in store as well, we can help you out. If you're not entirely sure how to feed or how much to feed, and you're feeding a dry food that we don't know, you can always bring either picture of the feeding guide and we can help you through it, because some feeding guides are really, really complicated that we struggle to get to the bottom of. But any questions at all, obviously get in contact. See you soon.